All right. Hello, everybody. So, we are trying something new today. The official launch of Monday Morning Coffee Talk will happen, obviously, Monday morning. But we wanted to do kind of a little test stream just to make sure our setup works. And it gives me an opportunity to check in with a good friend of mine I haven't seen in like a month. It's so
No.
terrible. um, but for those of you that maybe are stumbling across this or this is your first time tuning in, hi, I'm Samantha. I'm the owner of Love.Live.Dance, a ballroom dance studio in Salt Lake City, Utah. And today, for our little impromptu stream, I am joined by
Hi, my name's Hannah.
so Hannah is also obviously in the ballroom dance world. She and her partner Michael are competition experts. They're fantastic. They're wonderful. And she is actually one of my instructors.
Yeah, I have been a little busy recently, so I haven't been teaching for Level of Dance much recently, well, especially now with the quarantine. But yeah, I was busy with the show Strictly Ballroom at Hale Center Theater, and that got cut short too, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah. So the plan for the next couple minutes at least is just to talk about life under quarantine and kind of what we each do and how we're adjusting, and all about Strictly Ballroom, since unfortunately the tour got cut short. But good news, at least for this, is we can talk all about it, the good, the bad, what we learned, etc. Well, what not what we learned because I was not in it. What Hannah learned from it. um, yeah. So how are you? Let's start with the heavy stuff. How are you adjusting to the new normal?
Um, Pretty good, I would say overall. Definitely the first week of quarantine, I treated it a little bit like a vacation from home. Obviously, I stayed home, but I didn't really work out. I took some much needed rest from, dancing every day and performing. My body was hurting a lot of the time in a good way, right?
Hmm.
In a way that we love it. But so I took a break, drank a lot of wine, just like treated it like the rest of the vacation that I needed. And then the second week, I started, working out every day and, practicing my routines a little bit. I can't practice with Michael right now, obviously, but
Right.
um, just trying to keep my body in a place where it won't be hard to go back to practice and performing and competing.
Yeah. And you have like a full-time actual job too. So presumably you're working from home and you've set up the home office and
Yeah, I am incredibly lucky. Unfortunately, most of my friends have been laid off, or just can't work because all they do is teach dance.
yep.
Um, I I'm really lucky. I'm able to work from home. I work for Discover Bank, and they were so quick to send. I think they said 8,000 people
Oh my
home to
gosh.
yeah, it's crazy. They got us all the stuff. I was really lucky. I got all new monitors and a
Nice.
brand new thin client, which is just a really small computer. And yeah, I still work. I actually work a lot of overtime recently because with my job in disputes investigations, we actually have a huge increase in fraud right now because they have a lot of time on their hands. So
Yep.
that's what I've been doing to pass the time during the day, and it is nice to have that overtime income with my boyfriend not being able to work. Uh, that's because he's one of the people that were unfortunately laid off during this time, so it helps compensate for bills.
Yeah, I was gonna check up on the two of you because I know he's in the service or was in the service industry, which is
Mhm.
one of the areas that got hardest hit by all of this. But it's good to hear that things are going well for you
Yeah,
and that that's kind of helping out the household a little bit.
yeah, it's been great. It's definitely an adjustment, but it's been really great. He's um, taking the time to just learn different skills
Hmm.
online. Yeah, he's been making the best of it for sure.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Hmm.
Very cool. Yeah, the whole working from home and having both people in the house at the same time all day is definitely an adjustment the first week or so, but it's good that you
Yeah,
guys are making it work.
yeah. How's that going for you and Matt?
Oh, he's having to learn how to dance, which those of you that are tuning in on the stream have kind of enjoyed laughing at, I'm sure, for the last couple weeks. But no, we're doing good. We finally made the decision this week that we needed two separate spaces in the house. So he's got what used to be our guest bedroom as his home office, and I'm working down here in our study area. So it's been good. It's been good. I
Yeah.
think our cat is the one that's most stressed out about us being home all the time. He
That's
doesn't know
so
what to do
interesting.
with himself.
I've heard and seen a lot of videos of people, their cats just getting so mad
Yeah.
about having their owners home all the time. I think my cats, I mean, they're both sleeping right now, um, that they love the attention,
Mm-hmm.
and they just the hard part is keeping them inside because they just go outside all the time. They're indoor outdoor cats, and so we're trying to limit how much they actually go outside, obviously, because we actually were peeking outside once and we saw our neighbor petting one of the cats. So, that's just
Yes,
uh, interesting. Different people have different perspectives of what's going on, but we just want to
definitely.
keep ourselves safe for sure.
Yeah, I definitely don't want to turn this into like Sam talks
No,
about how to survive COVID-19, but
right.
but I will say, remember that your pets are potential spreaders. Like they might not be able to get it, but their fur can carry it. So
Mhm.
maybe think about it.
I mean, it's just part of the adjustment, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we've got a couple people tuning in. So, hello. Thank you for joining us. If you have any questions for Hannah or for myself, please, by all means, pop them into the chat. Otherwise, we're just going to take an opportunity to catch up for the next couple minutes.
Yeah.
So let's talk strictly. Let's talk
Okay.
strictly ballroom. It was the American premiere. Yeah, what is the Strictly Ballroom thing? Perfect, perfect timing, chat. Um,
Perfect.
so it was the American premiere of the musical adaptation of the movie. It was the first
Mhm.
time it was in the US. It was at the Hale Center Theater in Sandy. And tell me what it was.
Okay. Well, it was written by Boz Lerman, who also made the movie. Yeah, the Deep Lines over at Hale Center Theater decided they wanted to bring it over to the U.S. And so they'd been working at this for a couple years, I think, at least a year. It took them a while to bring it over. And even when we started the rehearsal period, they were still trying to get all of the necessary licenses for all of the songs that we had to sing. And some of the songs we actually had to change last minute because we didn't get the licenses. And so that's just
I
the
was
nature of showbiz.
I was going to ask you about that actually because you had a whole lot of pop songs from the 80s. And I have recently found out that copyright can be really difficult with those.
Oh, yes, for
So,
sure.
yeah, so I was wondering if because you were using a musical that was always already like put together for the Australian premiere and for the UK premiere, if those licenses were already wrapped into it, or if you had to individually go to like Cyndi Lauper and Queen and everybody else to
I
get
don't
those.
I don't know so much about that. I do know that we had to get permission from West End just to perform
Mm.
the musical, and the um, so the choreographer actually had to write this big long proposal of what she wanted to do with the choreography because actually Strictly Ballroom until it came to the US did not have a whole lot of ballroom choreography in it. If you watched it, it was pretty Broadway. It was really jazzy, because that's just what the training
Oh yeah,
was there.
absolutely.
And then she said, we have this amazing ballroom talent. It's kind of this mecca
Yeah,
of
we're
ballroom
in
here.
Utah. This is kind of the thing
Yeah,
that we do.
we have these two universities that have ballroom majors and these extensive ballroom programs, and then nowhere for them to perform professionally after. And so she just had to write this whole proposal to get permission just to even be the choreographer.
Wow.
And that, I know that that was part of bringing it over here.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
That's
Hmm.
impressive. Um, so I have in the chat from Kirtan, it probably takes a while to teach everyone an Australian accent. So this was originally on us an Australian movie and then an Australian musical.
Yeah.
So I have to ask, why keep the Australian accent? Is it just because you wanted, because the casting director and the director wanted to make it still feel like the original play, or is there something intrinsic about hearing it in Aussie that makes it like a better experience for the audience?
I don't know exactly what the reason was. Just, from a performer standpoint, it was just the director's choice, and that's what we stuck with. We actually had a dialect coach, and she started working with us on day one. We had this super Saturday thing that we got together. We got our measurements taken and everything, and this was back in, I want to say, October, maybe.
Wow.
No, yeah, it was a while back. It was a ways, maybe a month before we actually started rehearsals or more. I can't remember, but yeah, she met with us that day to give us homework to start working on our accents because it took a while.
That's crazy.
But I think one of the things that they did talk about in our rehearsals was uh, Strictly Ballroom, the movie. If you don't know it, you absolutely have never heard of it. But if you know it, you know it. It is a cult classic for sure. And I think that they wanted to keep a lot of similarities to the movie because the the musical is very similar. There isn't a whole lot that's too different.
Yeah, I thank you also for giving me tickets.
Oh, of
um,
course.
I got to see it, and yeah, it having watched the film, having strong emotional ties to the film, being in the ballroom industry, seeing a movie that I feel like really accurately shows what it really means to compete and perform in this world. Um, I felt like the musical did a really good job of really staying true to the beats in the movie. And I mean, there was a little bit more of a twist. Obviously, it was a musical, so you had some changes there. But I think from like a thematic standpoint and from hitting those key moments that people remember from the movie, I think it really did a really good job of staying true to it.
Yeah, I'm glad that you felt that as an audience member. Uh, I watched the movie several times during the rehearsal process to try to piece things together.
Definitely, definitely. So the interesting thing about the Hale Center, for those that are tuning in and maybe aren't familiar with either the Hale Center specifically or Utah, um, it is a theater in the round. So it's a dinner theater, which means you're performing to all sides of the stage. You don't have stage front. It's everything. When you as a dancer are taking that choreography that is very ballroom heavy, I mean, it was a little Broadway. Like you could definitely see that influence, but there was still this really heavy ballroom influence. How did it feel for you as a performer to have to think about like performing to all sides and moving to all sides and keeping that flow?
Yeah. Um, there's no off. That's definitely the adjustment from going from a front facing stage to around. Everything is seen by someone, so there's no hiding it. If you mess something up, you're not in the back. There is no back. And so it was really fun. I'd say it was a harder adjustment going from the rehearsal space to the stage
Mm.
because we're so used to north, south, east, and west. And they actually gave us these colors on the posts.
Hmm.
And then they gave us lights when we got to the theater that they took away after a while. Um, but I think that finding, what direction you're supposed to be facing was definitely the harder adjustment
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Well, and you had a rather large ensemble cast that was all dancing and all moving and all changing partners at times. There were lifts, there were flips, there were all sorts of stuff. And again, for those that maybe didn't get the opportunity to see it, um, there was also a lift that would like pop out of the center of the stage to
Mhm.
raise a set and then drop back under. So I I would be terrified as a performer that I would like have my foot at the wrong spot at the wrong time while that hydraulic stage is moving.
Yeah, when we're in the 2 week tech period, when we were in that period, we actually had a safety call anytime the set was moving, even during run throughs. So we all had to respond, and they would not move the set until we responded that we were clear of the area. And then, after more time practicing and just knowing when set pieces were moving and, what door to look out for so you don't get squished, uh, it got a lot easier.
Nice. We have a question from the chat. Do you change the front for different shows, or is the front always front?
It was always the same, but there is no front. It's north, south, east, and west.
Right.
And so it was, so we had bombs, bomb 1, 2, 3, and 4, and you just had to know which bomb you were entering and exiting, but no, it didn't change.
Okay. So,
That would have been very hard to do.
well, yeah, I was just thinking about that. So like the pit obviously stayed in the same corner.
Mhm.
So I feel like maybe it was because of whatever side we were sitting on, but most of the scenes with the leads were like diagonal corners. So you would always have the female lead in like northwest and the male lead in southeast. So you were kind of hitting you were viewing both leads at the same time, but they were across from each other, so no matter where you sat, you were always getting kind of this opposition effect. But I was
Yeah.
wondering, yeah, with the dances, if you always hit the same mark every single time and have to trans.
Theoretically, clearly there's nothing ever goes perfectly during every show. Um, Lots of funny mistakes were made.
So let's
But
talk
just
about that if you can. What was
well,
the funniest mess up, and what was the scariest as for you as a performer?
um, oh, scariest was actually when I was filling in for my double. So Strictly Ballroom, Hale Center Theater, they double cast everyone or understudy. But this one was just mostly double cast. I think we had one single cast person in it. Uh, but when I was filling in for my double, uh, I had done all of the lifts with my partner's double,
Hmm.
but there was just a simple dip that we didn't even think to practice. But we did a different handhold in my cast apparently. So that was a little bit like a moment right before going down because that was just I think it was something simple. It was just like a death drop.
Uh-huh.
And we had our hands here, but no, we did it our hands were facing each other's
Uh-huh.
and I think they were doing it this way. So there was like a little bit of a stumble while I was dropping down.
It's like, which
That was
hand do I
something
go where?
yeah. Luckily, that was in the last number anyway, and so it was like, oh, okay, I can just get through this one and we're good. Um, so that's probably one of the scarier ones. Um, I'm sure there were more. I just can't think of them off the top of my head. Funny ones. Hmm. And I need a minute on this one.
Well,
Um,
well, well, you think of that. I'll answer a question that we just got, which is what is a death drop? Um, so if you watch a lot of ballroom competitions, Latin, rhythm, end of the world, or you watch performances, essentially the idea is that you will almost always be in a cross hand position with the lead. You'll be upright, and then suddenly your head will be half a centimeter off the pavement.
mhm.
Sometimes there's a twisting action, like the lead is spinning and you're twisting and then popping back up, or it's just a dip and a hit. But the idea is you want the audience to have that moment as you are about to hit the pavement, but don't. So that's why I
The same
refer to it as death
moment I
drop.
had while I was going down. Um, Yeah, that it's a simple one that you do pretty early on in ballroom, so you don't even think to practice it, right? It's like, oh, we've been doing this for a decade minimum.
Yep.
Um, but I guess there were just two different ways to hold the hands there, and there are, you know, depending on if you're coming out walking forward or if you're just walking straight out of it.
Yep.
Um, but I did remember more, not so much a funny instance, but so do you remember the social dance scene pretty early on in it when we're in those awesome wigs? I had the pigtails with these fluffy bangs. Oh my goodness, I miss that wig.
So
Um,
was that the one at the studio where they're like, okay, yes, yes, yes.
we're beginners, and so we're like horrible frame walking. That was my favorite scene, honestly. Well, one of them for sure.
Yeah.
Um, so we would always pick a character
Uh-huh.
and we would stick with that character. So sometimes you'd be the bully, sometimes you'd be like way in love with Keen Rollins, and sometimes you'd be like you'd hate Liz or something, and you just go with it.
Mm-hmm.
And the one-liners that people would come up with, it was so hard not to laugh, so hard. And so that was a pretty consistent funny thing that I think happened with every single show.
Mm-hmm.
um but I can't think of just, oh, there was one where I tripped, but my partner was able to catch me, and it was one that we were able to laugh about, but it was, I can't remember what scene that was in. They all kind of blend together when you've performed it. I don't even know how many times I performed it, but a lot.
Yeah, a
Yeah,
ton, an insane amount. I remember talking like while you were in the midst of it, and I was like, you're doing 4 shows, 5 shows a week?
minimum for a week. Yeah, so that was minimum. And my double actually was planning on getting married. Unfortunately, our wedding got had to get pushed.
Mm,
Um, but so I was filling in a lot for her when she was getting her engagements done and stuff like that. And so I performed a lot.
that's crazy. That's
Yeah.
crazy. I want to switch away from strictly ballroom and talk a little bit about competition for a
Mm-hmm.
moment. So you and your partner, Michael, are competing standard, open
Mm-hmm.
amateur?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I wanted to make sure that was correct.
Yep.
So, open amateur standard. For those that maybe aren't as familiar with dance world, we essentially have two large families, American and international. And then inside each of those families, we have two subfamilies. In American, you have smooth and rhythm. And then in international, you have standard and Latin. So when you think of like the big ball gowns with the floats and the gentlemen in their tuxes with tails, that is standard. It's your waltz, tango, foxtrot, Viennese, and quick step. So that's what the two of you compete in. Right before all of this happened, you went to Vegas Open. So I want to
Mm-hmm.
talk a little about Vegas Open and your experience because that's a massive comp, and I'm very proud of the two of you. And then I want to get into your experience of BYU Nationals this year, because obviously that was an interesting experience across the board.
Yeah, it definitely was. Yeah, I know Vegas is great. It was a very quick trip for us. We actually drove down the day we competed,
Wow.
just because of how crazy things were with practices and with performances. We just didn't really have the time to get there the day before and try to calm down things a little bit. So we just stayed there the one night and then drove back. Um, yeah, we placed fifth, I believe. I actually can't even remember. I believe it was fifth. It wasn't like our placement was good, but it wasn't the best dancing we have done because when we were warming up, open amateur Latin was supposed to go before us. So this was just like for the final.
Hmm.
Um, but we were like warming back up for the final, and Latin was supposed to go first, but they were missing a couple. And then last second, they were like, "Hey, do we have all of our ballroom couples?" And then we were all there, so they just pulled us out, and so we weren't completely in the right headspace to get on the floor,
Right.
but it was still okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I think people, especially new competitors, really underestimate how much headspace and like sticking to a routine is so important to top results. Like, even if that's, I need to always make sure that I have my heat sheet out and that my number is pinned, and I'm going to take a sip of water, and then I'm just going to pace back and forth a number of times. Like getting in that routine and having that headspace is so important. So when you're at a competition and heats get switched or heats get condensed, it's like, no, please don't.
I know. That's why we all get a little bit of anxiety. We like to control
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I honestly, I don't know how Matt puts up with me when I'm in competition mode because I am like, don't talk to me, don't look at me. Like, I need to do things in a
Mhm.
certain order every single time.
And see, and I ramble. I am just talking about everything that we, have been doing wrong, and we need to fix it, and like we need to remember to do this, and don't forget this corner in the waltz. We keep messing that up, so don't mess that up. And um, but actually, at this competition, I remember I think it was Foxtrot where Michael started at the short side instead of the long side, and I kind of looked at him like, "What are you doing?" And so then he realized once I gave him that look, but it was too late.
Yeah.
And so we just started at a different place. He led me, and then we got back on.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah,
That's why you put in the hours with your partner ahead of time is
exactly.
so
For
you can just trust him.
instances where you forget where you're starting on the floor.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Or you revert back to last season's routine and you're like, all right, well, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so let's
Fun.
talk BYU. Nationals were set. They started.
Yeah.
You guys were ready to compete. And then Friday?
Thursday.
Thursday.
It was Thursday. So Wednesday, actually, we had lessons with our coaches, and we did rounds with all the couples that were in town from New York for nationals. And we were just getting ready, and things for someone at who had been at the BYU Marriott Center had been tested, but I don't know if it was positive or not. That I didn't really follow up on. And then Thursday came, and that's the day that my day job started sending everyone to work from home because they just started doing it that day. And then I called Michael on my way home and said, "So I just got a text from our coaches that nationals is canceled." It had already started, but yeah, um, it was really sad not to be able to compete. We put in all this work for the year, and we had all these goals set where we wanted to place, and then we didn't get a chance to. But they did officially reschedule for, I think it's in early November. It's right before the other November competition.
Oh, so they are actually going to split it. Because originally there was talk of just like slapping the titles onto the fall competition, but they are actually going to do a separate one.
I think it's going to be at the Marriott Center. That's what I've understood, but
Okay.
who knows?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Um, Question from the chat. Did a lot of folks not show up in the first place due to travel restrictions? I don't think the travel restrictions had happened yet.
They hadn't.
Yeah.
So I don't know anybody that just chose not to come. I know a lot of people that didn't end up coming because it was canceled because they hadn't flown in yet.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were actually going to try to have amateur Latin on Thursday instead of Friday. They were kind of hopeless for standard because that was on Saturday, and so most people wouldn't be there.
Right.
But then, so they actually announced, oh, they're going to be tonight. But then uh, they found out that enough of the top couples had not flown in yet, and so they said, okay, never mind. We're just gonna like keep everyone where they're at. If you're here, great. Let's finish up, a few more events, and then whatever we can't do, we can't do.
Yeah, which I think honestly, like that's you're in a hard position as competition hosts anyway when something like that happens. I think they made the best of a really bad situation, which is they ran the heats that they could run, but they didn't put titles to them if they didn't have everybody in the building. And it was, I think, for everybody's safety, personally, I think they made the right call. even
Yeah.
though you never want to see a competition that's in progress get shut down.
But so many competitions have been shut down because of this, and it's really sad because of how much work goes into putting on a competition a year in advance,
Oh,
just to get that
absolutely.
venue and get all of the couples registering and all the money that you spend in your social media to get the word out, all the emails that you send and permissions.
Scheduling
Like,
judges, scheduling
yeah,
adjudicators, like, yeah.
your music DJ, your vendors.
Hmm.
There's just so much work, and then it didn't happen. But it's more important that everyone's safe. So
Oh, absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. And especially when you have, national amateur titles on the line, that's drawing people in from Europe and from Russia and from Asia. So when you do have international competitors, I feel like if something like this happens, put everybody's safety and health first. It's at the end of the day, it's just a dance competition. There will be more of them. It'll happen again next year.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Now, on interesting news or more happy news, since we're talking about competitions and kind of the fact that the world is changing and that competitions are getting put on hold, have you heard of the Wine Spiral Challenge?
No.
Okay,
I,
so I will send you the link after this
okay.
because I feel like I don't have any wine in the house, unfortunately. We did not prep for quarantine properly. Um,
Oh, no.
but as a fellow wine drinker, I'm sure that you would probably appreciate this. So Michigan Dance Challenge or Michigan Dance Challenge, I forget what their official name is. Their competition obviously got postponed because of all of this, but the hosts decided that they wanted to take a competition online. So they are challenging dance community members to post an interesting photo. It can either be of yourself or a partner or of teams with a glass of wine, red or white or blush, filled however much you want, although they recommend at least half, so a healthy amount of wine in the glass, and then do spirals
While holding it?
while holding the glass.
That's hard. You use your arms so much on a spiral. Oh,
Yeah.
oh, I would definitely not choose red, but unfortunately, I mean, not unfortunately, but that's what I drink mostly. But I guess I could do that in my kitchen. But
Well, and I think it was interesting because, like, I think it was last year or maybe the year before, there was the wine glass, or not the wine glass, water glass challenge of like,
okay,
could you do spins or spirals without the glass tipping or tilting? And instructors, we always are like, balance a book on your head or make sure that you're level, hold your top line. So
right.
I thought that was an interesting tweak to that concept. And I've seen a lot of interesting videos getting posted. Whoever, and I so forgive me
Sure.
for not remembering the name of this amazing, incredible dancer at the moment. Um, but one of the Latin dancers did it in the T Rex inflatable.
That's amazing.
And I was like, that
Where
is
have
just
you
taking
seen
it to
that?
another level.
That's amazing. Oh yeah. Oh.
We have someone in the chat that's wondering, what's a spiral? You want to take this one?
Uh. Oh, how do you explain it without showing it? I'm not going to show it. um. It is a move that is done in Latin dances. You
Mm-hmm.
see it mostly in cha-cha and rumba, sometimes samba. Um, I've seen it, and actually, no. Now that I think about it, I've seen it in Paso Doble, but it is a turn. Um, but in other dance styles, when you turn, usually you're just keeping everything in one line and you're just turning. You have a one pinpoint. But in a spiral, you're essentially spiraling your body. So what you're doing is you're stepping forward on one foot and then you rotate over your shoulder. And then by the time you finish, oh, let me back up a little bit. So you're on one foot and you keep your back foot pointed and you leave your back foot there while you're turning. So then by the time you finish rotating, your thighs have kind of wrapped around each other and you're essentially wrapped up like a towel.
Yeah. So if you wanted to try this at home, Put your right foot in front of your left foot, almost like you're standing on a balance beam. You probably want to be in turnout if you want to do this correctly.
Yeah.
And then let's see, right foot, left foot. I would turn to your
Right,
left.
left.
Yeah. So turn to your left. Keep turning. No, really.
Keep your
Keep
feet
turning.
there.
Keep your feet there. You can drag. You can let your
They
back foot
rotate.
slide up if you need to, but keep your weight on your forward foot. Keep turning. Keep going. I know you're
Yeah.
about halfway there, but you got to keep going. Get all the way back to the point where you are facing the wall that you originally started at, and that is a spiral.
Yeah, your body should feel like you're wringing out a towel almost. Like your ribs pull forward and your abs are like your obliques are really working. It's a fun one.
Yep. And the
Yeah.
hardest part, at least in my
Cool
opinion,
positions.
is to stay on that forward foot the entire time, because with both feet in contact, for me and for a lot of my students that are working on this, the tendency is to want to split weight. So you end up on your back foot by the time you finish your turn. So you have to stay forward as you're continuing that rotation.
Mm-hmm. But
Yeah.
keep pressure in the back foot.
Yes. Yeah. Don't pick up the back foot. They'll keep some pressure on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are you most looking forward to getting back to once all
Mm-hmm.
of this is returned to the old normal instead of the new normal?
Well, what is normal? I feel like I mean, parts of it are just not going to go back after something like this, but I definitely am looking forward to having human interaction again and like getting to the studio and just interacting with people and teaching and um sorry if that's kind of loud. My AC just cranked on. My boyfriend's crazy. He wants the AC on instead of the heat. Whatever. Sorry, I got off track.
You're fine.
And then practicing with Michael. There's only so much you can do practicing at home and working out, which I mean, it definitely helps, but I feel like I still might get my butt kicked a little bit once I get back in the studio. And then this sounds so funny, but just being able to have the freedom to go grocery shopping and not have it be this big thing that needs to be planned out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but what about you?
Um, I'm looking forward to getting back in the studio and teaching. Like genuinely, I miss my students. Luckily, I have a handful of students that have moved their lessons online to Zoom, or Skype, but it's not the same.
Yeah.
And I know that I have a lot of wedding clients that either their weddings are this fall or they had to push their wedding back. And I'm looking forward to getting back to working with them on steps and choreography and stuff. Um, it's weird because my first initial reaction is like, I miss human interaction. And when I get back to the studio, I want to give everybody like a big hug. And then the quarantine brain is like, no, you're going to have to figure out how to teach people without like any hands on interaction for months because we're all going to be paranoid about everything.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking about this. Once things open back up, I feel like it's going to take me a solid month before I'm going to be brave enough to go to a bar.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
But yeah, it'll be nice to just see my friends. Obviously, there will be some that I want to hug. Like, I want to hug you,
Yeah.
probably. Yeah. It's going to be hard not to. But
Yeah.
yeah.
It'll be nice. I do feel like if one thing comes out of all of this, it's going to be we're all going to be much more aware of how much physical contact we're used to having and taking a critical look at like what we actually need as humans to have and then what we can kind of get away with not doing. Like I probably will not ask for a handshake on consultations with new
Oh,
clients
yeah.
anymore, which is very weird because I was actually joking before everything got shut down, because like for maybe 2 weeks beforehand, um, I kind of knew this was coming, so I was changing a little bit about how I was teaching and how I was scheduling people and protocol as far as cleaning and everything.
Yeah.
Um, but I had a couple, and I was like, I'm not going to shake your hand because obviously we want to be like more germ aware. Um, but then like 5 minutes later, I'm getting the lead into proper frame and like hand hold and like physically moving them. And I'm like, all right, well, this is just silly. This is just being needlessly concerned.
Yeah. Well, that was one of the scary things when, the coronavirus hadn't really come over here yet,
Mm-hmm.
but it was starting to. Just thinking about how much I touch different people, like coming into close contact with Michael and like being here, and then with Strictly Ballroom, I dance with multiple different people in that, and so just having all of this close contact, and then
Mm-hmm.
even with the people that I wasn't dancing with, I was up against, well, this girl that I'm like having this moment with on stage, like that we're selling this experience, but we're getting in each other's bubbles,
Right.
and thinking about how many different people, well, then even dressing rooms, wiggies, our dressers, we had people to dress us, like all these different people coming into contact with, and that's not even including my day job.
Right. Right. Yeah,
So it was a bit scary.
absolutely. I feel like the entertainment and the arts industry especially, we are much more like touchy-feely people.
Oh yeah.
So we're like I'm going to have to rethink a lot of how I teach on a day-to-day basis. Maybe not because I'm concerned about my own health, although I'm sure I will be, but making sure that my clients now feel more comfortable in this new craziness.
Mm-hmm. I think that's where consent comes into
Oh,
play a lot,
definitely.
because I mean, I was so used to working with kids, and so I had really developed a habit and kept this with working with adults. Is it okay if I touch you? Is it okay if I put my hand on your back? Is it okay if I put my hands on your hips?
Oh,
And then
definitely.
that way they can say no. And I've had students say no before, and it does sometimes create a little bit more of a challenge as to helping them feel what the movement's supposed to be, but at least I know what their boundaries are.
Right, right. No, absolutely. I
Right.
would never
Right, of course.
physically touch a student without their consent. Um,
No.
but I do feel like being more cognizant of not being in physical
Yeah.
contact or avoiding that more is going to change how I describe certain actions. Like
Yeah.
I'm gonna be more aware as an instructor of how to verbalize those things that you and I are like, yeah, you should just feel it here. It's like, all
Right.
right, well, if I don't, what do I do?
Yeah. And I know that can be so tricky with teaching, and it really just depends on what the student's learning style is, because some people, all they need to do is see you do it, and
Hmm.
then they have it. That's it. Or they need to hear you explain it just the right way for their brain, and so you have to explain it, 4 different ways before it'll click. Or they do need hands on. They do need you to grab their foot and put them in the inside ball of the, like, inside edge of the ball position, because they're not going to understand it without you putting it there.
Yep, definitely, definitely. So before we go, we'll chat for like 5 or 6 more minutes. Um, you teach
Mhm.
in your spare time, the very few spare times that you have. Um, what would you say? What would you say is your specialty? And what is one piece of wisdom that you wish more dancers knew?
I would say my specialty is ten dance, international styles. That's just what I've done the longest. But I do have experience in the American styles as well. Um, which, I mean, you can use in competition, and then like social, as well as like wedding dances and things like that. But let me think about. one word of wisdom I wish. Wait, so one thing I wish more students knew,
You answer it
or
however you would like. Either one thing that you wish more students knew, or one thing that you wish people in general knew more about the industry.
that this is a job and not a hobby, because that's a big misconception that people are like, oh, that's cute, you dance. It's like, yes, I do, and I love it, and it's also a job, and like I'm sure you've experienced the same thing,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
like
The
all the
aren't you
time.
so brave to be teaching dance full time? It's like, no, this is my job. This is my
Yeah,
career.
and I do it because I love it.
Yeah. This is a choice that I made.
Yeah. Um, but I think as far as dancing, like dancing itself, um, I do. Trying to think how to. I wish that more people, dancers and non-dancers, would just know that anything can be learned. Because some people will be like, "Oh, there's just no way I could ever dance. Like
Hmm.
I'm too, like I can't. I'm not coordinated at all. I'm too awkward. Like, hello, I'm one of the clumsiest people off the dance floor. I bump into things all the time. And to just try it, ultimately when you start doing, especially standard and smooth, you're just walking.
Yeah,
Yeah, actually Latin too, and like you're just all you have to do is walk first. We'll help you with the rest. But
absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. And you don't even have to walk. I
no,
mean,
you don't.
wheelchair dance is a thing.
It's
So,
true. Yeah, that's becoming more and more uh, seen, I guess, in the dance world, and it is awesome. Um, but I'm just waiting for the people that are clumsy.
yeah, 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 yeah.
It's okay. If you can walk, you can dance.
Absolutely.
But
The people that are like, I've got two left feet. Like, we gotcha.
but you walked over here, so you're good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, anything else that you want to tell the people that are watching? Anything else that you want to chat about? Any questions from the chat? Anything that you guys have questions about or want to hear us talk about?
I don't know. I don't have anything off the top of my head. I could talk to you forever.
Yeah, I
Like
was gonna say
we
we
have,
could talk for like the next 5 hours.
we go to
But
dinner and then they're like, okay, are you done yet?
like, no.
Like, no, we're not. Go. Like, just keep bringing wine. We'll be
Yeah,
good. um, yeah, I'm just thinking there's so much more I could say about Strictly, but that's okay because that's just this whole other world that I've been learning about is theater and singing.
yeah. So was this your first production that you were in? Or have you
Uh-huh.
been in other things?
Yep, this was my first time. First time wearing a mic pack and having a little microphone taped on my face.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, this was the first time I'd ever done anything like that. Luckily, I'd sung growing up, so it wasn't so hard to bring that back into practice. It definitely, your vocal cords are just a muscle.
Hmm.
And so it definitely was just trying to get that back and practice every day. And yeah, just learning a lot.
That's
And how
awesome.
to sing in an Australian accent, like
Yeah,
you mentioned.
I was gonna say, learning to talk in an Australian accent, hard. Learning to sing, hard. Learning to sing in a fake Australian accent, all the props in the world to you.
Thanks. It was really fun. Yeah, I really miss that cast now that I'm just thinking about like how fun it was to sing with that group while dancing. Yeah.
Yeah,
There's no better way to get you in shape, let me tell you that.
there you go. Well, I am sure that you and I will chat more
Oh
in the
yes, we
future.
definitely will.
Maybe a companion to Monday morning coffee talk will be like Saturday evening wine chat or something.
Yeah, I'm so down.
Because we really just need an excuse to catch up every so often. That's really
Mhm.
it.
But yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
And we'll talk as long, I mean, we'll talk whether or not people watch. So,
Definitely. Definitely. Absolutely. We'll just talk to ourselves, and if somebody stumbles across it, fantastic.
yeah,
Awesome. Well,
seriously.
thank you so much, Hannah, for joining me today. Thank you guys at home for tuning in. I've been Samantha. This has been Love.Live.Dance. And stop by again Monday at roughly 10 a.m. MST. We're going to shoot for a 10 a.m. start time, but we'll see what ends up happening tech wise. And then Wednesday, we have our wedding Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Topic for this week still TBD. Um, Maybe bachata. Maybe we'll do some bachata basics. And then Friday is going to be continuing tango. Oh, I've got a question. Who's on Monday? So, yes, Monday morning, first official guest will be Amanda Wolf from Studio 101 and Wedding Dance Pittsburgh. She was my OG mentor in the ballroom dance world, and she's like a big sister to me, and she's amazing. And she's going to be talking about so much interesting stuff. I'm so excited to have her on. So yeah, Monday at 10 a.m. with Amanda is going to be a lot of fun. But thank you guys. Stay safe this weekend. Stay home this weekend. I mean it. Stay home. And we'll see you on Monday. Bye.